Namaskar. Welcome to the last episode of week 3 uh, under the fraud theories. This is the last theory we are discussing in this week, and this theory is very extensive in nature. This theory is called as fraud hexagon theory. As we discussed in the previous theories, the number of factors decide the name of the theories. Same is applicable to this theory also, because of the 6 factors. This theory called as the hexagon theory. This is the advanced fraud theory, where it considered an advanced theory because it build upon earlier models and incorporate a broader set of behavioral, organizational and relational factors. So, we have discussed in the previous theories where some theories are having relational factors, but not the behavioral, some factor having the behavioral factor, but not the organizational. In this theory, all 3 domains are clubbed together and it build and it create a great theory of in the fraud in the forensic accounting domain. So, it is designed to explain sophisticated and large scale frauds that cannot be adequately explained by similar model like the fraud triangle, fraud diamond. So, this model has been created to investigate the broad frauds, the big large scale frauds. This theory is having, as you can see, there are 6 elements are involved in this theory. The 6 elements are pressure, capability, collusion, opportunity, rationalization and ego. So, uh, these elements together capture both individual motivation and organizational conditions that enable fraud. So, it is not related to only organizational, the individual levels are also having the fraud and can be investigated through this theory. So, it addresses the complex environment. Uh, I guess all the factors has already been taught in the previous episode, like we quickly cover like pressure. Pressure is maybe the financial or non-financial pressure which motivate the individual or the group of the individual to commit fraud. This includes the personal financial problem, this includes the organizational performance pressure, this also includes the external economic challenges. So, these pressure may create may create the chance to or motivate the individual or group of individual to commit the fraud. The second is opportunity. So, opportunity exists when the weak internal controls, the poor governance or the lack of oversight allow individuals to commit fraud without immediate detection. So, this is allow these opportunities often arises due to the weak internal controls, internal failures, management override. So, these are the problems where the opportunities has been created. The second, the third is rationalization, which is also the part of fraud triangle theory. So, in the rationalization, the mental justification used by the fraudster to execute unethical behavior, that I am not doing anything wrong, I will give it money back to the organization. So, this kind of things may be where the individual may convince themselves that their action is temporary or justified or harmless. So, where the individual justify himself and do the fraud. The capacity we already discussed in the diamond theory, where the skills, authority and the confidence required to commit the fraud and to conceal the fraud. The individual with system knowledge, decision making power or technical expertise are more capable to execute complex fraud with the help of capacity. Arrogance we already discussed in the previous theory, where it reflects the belief of being above the rules and above the controls, internal controls and ethical standard. that however this trait is often obvious in the seniors or executives who believe that position protect themselves with scrutiny and the consequences. So, and the lastly is the collusion. Collusion is like the in this theory the arrogance may be called as the ego. So, that is why we are discussing the same thing similar to the pentagon. So, the last is collusion, where collusion is we as you know there where the involvement of two or more person are there in to commit the fraud, that is called as the collusion. So, it significantly increase fraud risk because it allow perpetrator to bypass control and conceal fraud activity more effectively. So, other people are also involved in this process. So, that is why it is very hard to detect. So, these are the brief discussion about the 6 factors or 6 element involved in this thing. So, one thing that this fraud, this theory, why it is important, or why the to address the environment, the modern fraud often involve advanced technology and the multiple actors and weak governance across large organizations. So, the fraud hexagon addresses these complex environment by including factors such as leadership behavior, collaboration among fraudster, making it higher relevant on today's context. So, that is why we can say that in the modern according to the modern technology or modern environment, this is the best suitable theory which is available in the area of forensic accounting. Let us discuss about the role of collusion in the fraud. Uh, this So, what is the role of collusion? Why we are talking about collusion in the fraud? So, the characteristic of collusion is the multiple individual involvement. So, there are more than one, two people or the group of people will be involvement. So, it means the fraud is no longer an individual act, but a coordinated effect of individual involving employees, management, or external parties such as vendors and the customers. So, this is not act of an individual person, but a group of person who belong to the different place of the organization, different level of the organization. Secondly, the control circumstances. So, control circumvention means when individual collude, they can override or bypass internal control that are designed to protect fraud. Segregation of duties become ineffective when multiple parties cooperate. So, that is why we cannot say कि segregation of duty is one of the option to control the fraud. Yes, it is the option, but at the limited level. Once the multiple parties has been involved, multiple stakeholders has been involved. So, this will not impact on the segregation of duty, will not very effective on the fraud detection. The collusion also collusion fraud tend to a longer period of time because the participants help conceal each other's action. So, making detection more difficult and delaying discovery. So, this kind of things which happen where the long duration frauds has been done, or it may occur where the long term frauds has been done in the organization. Lastly, collusion often leads to the organizational fraud. Schemes such as procurement fraud, bid rigging, the cartel behavior, and money laundering network, which are complex and high damaging. So, this kind of collusion are often involved in money laundering is very common, the corruption is very common. So, this kind of things when multiple parties are involved at different levels. So, we can say that it is the organized fraud scheme which is in the organization. So, these are the frauds which we discussed in the previous in this week. So there are multiple type of frauds we discussed. So let us compare these fraud one by one. So first, comparison of fraud diamond and the fraud triangle theory. So fraud diamond improves when the uh, fraud fraud diamond is one of the improvement on the fraud triangle, and adding the capability in one of the factor in the fraud diamond. So it explains why once certain individuals are able to commit fraud despite similar pressure and the opportunities. Similarly, fraud triangle is the fraud triangle is one of the earliest and the most widely used fraud theories. So it explains the fraud occurs when three conditions like the pressure, opportunities, and the rationalization exist simultaneously. While this model is very useful to understand the basic causes of fraud, it assumes that anyone facing these conditions can commit fraud, and which is not always true. Why? Because fraud diamond addresses that the limitation of fraud triangle is the capability. So, capability recognize that committing fraud requires significant skill, authority, confidence, and the system knowledge. So, not everyone who experiences pressure and the opportunities has the ability to exploit weaknesses or conceal fraud over the time. So, this makes the fraud diamond more suitable for analyzing complex fraud, insider frauds, and the management level fraud. So, in we can say that fraud triangle is ideal for the basic kind of understanding and awareness, but fraud diamond provides a deeper and more realistic explanation by focusing on who is actually capable to commit fraud. So, these are the basic differences comparison between the fraud triangle and the fraud diamond. You can also go through this comparison table available in the slide, where you can see that who developed the fraud triangle and the fraud theory, what are the main focus, how many elements are there, the what are the behavioral depth, which capacity factor is there or not, what is the applicability, use, limitation, everything is available in the this comparison table. So, this you can go through. The second theories are fraud pentagon and the fraud hexagon. Fraud hexagon extends the fraud pentagon theory by adding collusion, which is more powerful, and it which is more suitable for explaining organized and the group based fraud in modern organization. So, fraud pentagon theory explain either fraud models by incorporating behavior trait such as arrogance, such as competencies, which are particularly relevant in explaining fraud committed by senior management. It also highlight how leadership behavior, ethical failure, and governance weaknesses contribute to corporate fraud. But if we talk about the fraud hexagon theory, which further extend this model to introduce collusion, that is more powerful and is an distinct element which give a more power to this theory. This addition recognizes that many modern fraud are not committed by individual acting, but it involve corporation among different multiple employees, different multiple level of employees, the management, the external parties, vendors, customers, etc. So, this is the big scam or the big frauds are not the cup of tea for an individual, for a single individual. Collusion enables fraudster to bypass the internal controls. It also prolong fraud duration. It also increase the financial impact on the economy. So, we can say that while the fraud pentagon is effective for explaining management driven corporate fraud, the fraud hexagon is better suited to analyze the organized collusion and large scale fraud commonly seen in today's complex business environment. So, these are the basic differences, where in the table also you can see that there are the different stages where we can apply the fraud pentagon and where we can apply the hexagon theory. So, it does not mean that one is good, so other is bad, it is just the applicability of the theory. So, you can see the number of element involved, you can see the core element which is the additional element, you can see the behavioral focus is the leadership behavior in pentagon, but in the focus on individual and the group dynamics on the hexagon theory. So, these are the governance perspective. You can see the fraud type, the role of senior management, the complexity level and the limitations of the both the frauds you can see in the comparison table. So, we can say that both theory are important, both theory is important, but it depends where the investigator, where the investigating officer is applying on the which type of fraud or which type of organization. So, lastly we will talk about the relevance of fraud theories in practice. So, as we discussed the different type of theories with the 3 factor, 4 factor, 5 factor, 6 factor. So, there are different factors which gives the add-ons to the different theories. So, the relevance of theory in practice is very important. So, this fraud theories are widely used in the fraud risk assessment, which is to identify vulnerable areas, the high risk individual and weak internal control environment. So, this theory, these all theory are widely used. These all theories are different set of factors are there. So, the applicability is also there in the different type of fraud. It the theory is also supporting supporting forensic accountant. So, the forensic accountants apply fraud theories to plan investigations, uh, interpret evidences and understand the behavioral aspect behind financial irregularities. So, it all theories support the forensic accounting process, forensic accounting practices and help the investigator to solve the case. These theories are helpful to design preventive strategies as well. So, if we talk about the theories, the insight of the fraud theories help organizations design effective preventing strategies such as strengthening the internal controls. It also helpful to improve the governance. It also helpful to promote the ethical culture in the organization, so that overall fraud has been reduced and it gives a preventive strategy to the organization. The last is understanding behavioral fraud behavior. So, all theories, the fraud theories are also helpful to deeper understand the how and why individual or group of individual commit fraud. this theory also helpful to the professional uh, move beyond detection to long term prevention in the organization. So, overall we can say that these theories are the base, these theories are the guideline, these theories are the support to the investigating process, to the investigating officer. So, with the help of these theories, the investigators can easily go through or easily follow the factors or follow the guidelines provided by the theories and solve the case. Which theory? The main part is the applicability. So, we have four different type of theories, but applicability of all four theories are different. So, it is the investigator who have to understand which theory should be at the applicability of one theory to at which type of cases. So, the applicability of theory is very important. Once the investigator understand the applicability, so the person, the individual, the investigator can easily run the theory, easily follow the theory to solve the case. So, this is it for the week 3. In this week you have learned the different type of fraud theories in fraud investigation. In the next week we will talk about the fraudster. We will discuss about the behavior and the type of fraudster in who commit fraud. See you in the next week. Thank you.